So this is a video I've been putting off for quite some time. I was seriously hoping the devs would improve this. The new player experience in Throne of Liberty is honestly pretty awful right now, particularly in dungeons and in pretty much any PvP content. However, I first want to quickly touch on the previous video I made. I know there's quite a few you are not exactly happy about my opinions from that, and how I wasn't that expressive with how important certain bugs and exploits need fixing. Yes, they can be very impactful in certain situations. For me personally, I haven't been that negatively impacted by them, but that does not mean at all that those bugs should not get fixed. It is very important that they do so, just to maintain the health of the game, along with players needing to be sanctioned. I literally just received this today, and it does confirm the devs are doing something. This player was allegedly cheating and botting, and the devs went and banned him for it. He did make an appeal, which does allude to, yes, the devs double checking that the data is correct, that the person got rightfully banned, and it's not just based on player reports, because the worry is you could mass report somebody, they get auto banned, and then they have no way to appeal it. But you do have a chance to appeal it, and when that happens, you should get an actual dev looking at the data. But this then does confirm that they are banning people for botting behavior, and this was a permanent ban. So definitely only do that at your own risk. And who knows, they may very well start banning people for the trial bugs. But now let's jump back to that awful new player experience. This happened right here with me. This is literally the worst feeling ever. You get blocked off just before you're going to enter the boss fight, and this will result in you not getting any loot because you have not made any contribution to beating up that boss. This is one issue of many just with these co-op dungeons. On top of that, the easier dungeons have got so power crept, when you do get a group for them, they're pretty much going to be at the boss room already before you've even made it halfway through walking in the dungeon. And they literally like one-shot all the mobs. If we take a quick look that a supposed new player made from their perspective, and the good is, yeah, the game's honestly pretty great fun to play. There's a load of content, especially for a new player who's going at it solo. You have the whole adventure codex to get through, the exploration codex, and if that's your thing, you enjoy adventuring by yourself, the map's huge, plenty of content to play there. You can sink many hours exploring, leveling up, and then once you get towards endgame, that's when you start interacting with the actual community, the other players needing to run dungeons, trials, and you start looking at PvP. Maybe you even got attracted to this game because of the large-scale PvP that's available. You might have seen gameplay of Castle Siege and been like, whoa, that's really cool, hundreds of players all together in a massive PvP scenario. And yeah, it can be quite a lot of fun, but there is now such a massive gear gap between a new player and then a maxed out kitted player that you just don't stand a chance in PvP. This is expressed here by this new player and his perspective, where he expresses that there is indeed a huge damage and defense multiplier gap between a new player and a much older kitted out player. There's literally no content that you can play that you get put on a near enough level playing field. Honestly, Arena should be like this, or at least have some sort of Battlegrounds game mode where players get matched irrespective of gear and you're just set at a certain stat point. They have this system in the game, like certain dynamic events, you get scaled to a certain level. Of course, there still needs more balancing upon that because certain gear has certain bonuses, and those bonuses can lead you to have a much higher power spike versus somebody who doesn't have those, circumventing the actual scaling effect. But they could at very least do something. There is no PvP content in this game that doesn't require you to pretty much be maxed out. If you jump into arenas, which you would think would have a decent matchmaking, well, unfortunately, it doesn't really at all. Even if you're on the lowest rank possible, you jump in, you're still going to get matched against higher skill level players, higher geared level players, and just get absolutely stomped if you don't have a min-max PvP build. But jumping back to dungeons, co-op dungeons particularly, where you join a group and you go and you beat up a boss. These are honestly the bread and butter for PvE content in many of these MMORPGs, and you can have a lot of fun with them. But right now, as a new player, you honestly don't really have any fun. For the first few playthroughs, it might feel quite amazing that you can get through the dungeons so quickly. But on the other hand, it can also feel like you're not contributing anything. You're dealing basically no damage. Everything's getting one shot before you even get to it. You have far slower movement speed than everybody. So if there's any section where you need to move across a certain area, you end up falling behind. And half the time, people start the boss before you even get there because they're so impatient. Sometimes people will restart the boss when they notice. Other times, they just don't care and just go solo the boss without you. And then yes, you'll end up with no rewards. Like my mount here, I was leveling up as a new player in like the Korean server, and I'm just super slow. So I decided I'm just going to go on here. The guys are going to already have killed the mini boss before I even get to this wall. And that way I can get to the boss arena before the others, at least before one of the others, so that I wouldn't be like left out. Ultimately, I wanted them to fix this. I think they just need to have it set so that you can either enter the boss fight for the first time anytime, or you just can't start the boss until everybody's within the arena. They did mention they were going to try and alleviate some of the toxicity in these dungeons, but they really didn't do anything. Be aware, the party matchmaking does kind of try to match you with other players at the similar like combat power level, but a lot of the time it just doesn't, because it either struggles to find a tank and a healer, and so it's going to pretty much put anybody who signs up as that role in, and so it can be a mixed bag of what kind of teammates you get. But generally try queue up at the highest combat power you have, even if you're playing a more alt setup. Additionally, be careful that a lot of people select tank and healer even though they're just a damage dealer to queue up so that they get faster queues. But that leaves newer players who don't have as say much self-sustain struggling in that content, dying because an enemy just basically nearly one-shots them, there's no healer to back them up, there's no tank to have threat, and overall can just be a terrible experience. Also, there's a big warning. People will judge you so heavily based on what weapons you're using. I believe by default it is selected to reveal your weapon details. That allows anybody to inspect your weapons. Playing on the Korean server, I experienced this a ton, where a new player would be in the group. People could see their weapon, that it's not max traded, or it's say tier 1 purple instead of tier 2 purple, and they would just vote kick you. They would literally vote kick you on the emphasis that you either don't have maxed out runes or you don't have a fully max traded weapon yet. It's absolutely horrendous, even though the content for them is super simple and they could literally solo the entire dungeon in less than 10 minutes. They just don't want to like carry somebody, even if it's a newer player to the game. And honestly, this game is going to die if we don't at least help new players in some way or another. So if you're watching this and you're starting out this game, I highly recommend to hide your weapons. Hide them until they get geared and traded enough that you're confident to reveal your weapons. Because there's also the flip side. When you do hide your weapons, people are also less inclined to take you in groups because they're unsure of how geared you are. So if you are at the point where you can show it, do so. But otherwise, definitely, if you're new, you're still gearing up, hide your weapon details. People will judge you and they will kick you just on the premise that you aren't maxed out, even if you know what you're doing and you play really well with your skills. Even in the simplest content, like you're running Death to Abyss, super easy, somebody's going to kick you because you have a not maxed out weapon yet, which is ludicrous. And yeah, this guy's post totally confirms many of these experiences that I had personally leveling up in the Korean server, which is a much older version of the game, as that was released in 2023 of December. So there's many players there who are like near enough maxed out, and they're just trying to get through content as quickly as possible, but they have no respect for a newer player. And then there's the whole time gating of everything. That's an absolute significant issue here, because you might feel, I'll try out the game. There should be ways I can catch up even if I have lots of time to invest in. I know I'm not going to be maxed out day one, but maybe in a few weeks I can if I have 8 hours every day to play, or even have the whole day to play. But no, this game seriously time gates you. You can only run 3 dungeons per day, 1 2-star and 2 3-stars. You do get double the rewards for doing a 2-star, as you can open the chest twice. You can also go back and do the 1-stars, but honestly I wouldn't. Your chances at better loot are generally higher with the 2-stars. Only do so if you haven't met the combat requirement level yet. And then there's the 3-stars, which again you can only do 2 of them per day. So you're limited to the value of 4 dungeons, but realistically you're only playing 3. So that's like very short time frame with everybody being geared up and just melting everything. And then you have the Abyss tokens, which you're time gated based on how many you can actually earn, and then you're going to use those tokens to jump into your open world dungeons like these listed here. You're going to kill enemies, and you can only get the loot from these enemies when you actually have those tokens. So again, you're time gated on that. And then dynamic events are even now time gated with the good rewards that you can get from those. You can only do 15 a week. And to touch on another issue with PvP, it's just not that rewarding. Yes, you can join a hardcore guild. They'll have you attending multiple PvP events every day just to maintain their rankings, kill rankings, and their player attendance, so that when there is big PvP events, you'll at least have some experience. But again, the only real rewarding PvP events are Inter-server and Siege. It can be quite a lot of fun, but those hardcore guilds can burn you out pretty fast with all their mandatory events. But again, you have absolutely no hope of getting there as a new player for at least a few months, or if you invest heavily in buying a ton of Lucent. Maybe there's 1 or 2 of you who are very fortunate to have a group of friends in high places, and the guild would give you a whole lot of gear to gear up quickly. But that's honestly not going to happen for a lot of you. Overall, I wanted to express this current state of, a new player experience in this game. It honestly needs some serious improvements. They need to add better ways for players to catch up, potentially alleviate some of the time gating, and for PvP there needs to be some sort of content that puts players on a level playing field where it's literally just the power of your skills and abilities, but even those a new player is going to struggle with because you have to level them all up. God, this game is such a vertical progression game that yes, if you want to play any competitive PvP content right now, you have to spend a lot of time just playing PvE content. And I honestly think the devs need to do something to change that. Whether it's some Battlegrounds mode where everybody's put on a level playing field, same gear, same level skills, you can customize which ones you use, which masteries, have them all maxed out to just for this particular content. But alas, there's a lot of fun to be had in this game, don't get me wrong, but I will say having a group of friends makes everything so much better. Even if you all suck, it can still be a lot of fun when you're just a group and you stick together and you can mess around in loads of different content in this game. It's ultimately a free-to-play game. There's no harm checking it out. It sure damn needs some improvements, especially with bugs and exploits as of late, but there is hope that the devs will be doing something about it, and that they are doing something about it is just kind of all behind the scenes. And that is not even to mention Nebula, which is even time-gated on top of that. This is ultimately a terrible experience for a newer player going here. You're either stuck farming mobs super inefficiently in a PvE zone, or you're in a PvP area where you can literally just get jumped on every 10 seconds by the exact same people, even if you do manage to kill them. You need a super stacked group, and you need to have the gear levels for it. Some of you may go ahead and point out about like the coupon codes that the devs were giving away in order to get like maxed out tier 2 blue gear, a full set. Yes, it's great and all, would get you like over 3000 combat power, but unfortunately the devs have actually discontinued this campaign. It's over now. There may still be some codes you can use that are circulating around, but it's a limited resource and not something any new players moving forward can realistically rely upon to catch up. And even then, it wasn't really a catch up, it was a temporary boost, because you cannot use that gear to say transfer to new gear. You have to upgrade a full set starting from scratch like everybody, and so it still takes you a long time, especially when you want to upgrade to level 2 purple gear. And honestly, they should have just given those packs to everybody who starts the game from here on out. Thanks all for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye for now.